Good afternoon, Tuesday, January 13th, 12:05 in the afternoon as I record the All 32 podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network, and of course brought to you by the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America, PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. Make sure you turn on your notifications, folks, for those that follow along so you know the instant a new show drops. Want to get to you quickly about, turning the page, right? Patriots now know who their opponent's going to be. The Texans take care of the Pittsburgh Steelers last night in Pittsburgh. Lopsided game that was close for a while, but it shouldn't have been because of CJ Stroud. We'll get into that for a little bit in a little bit. But Patriots, this is a challenge for them. No question about it, because they are facing an elite defense that can do a lot of things to you. We just saw the Chargers. That was the best defense I think the Patriots played this season. Well, now the Texans are a level above that. So we'll get into that for sure in this one. But exciting to know who they're going to be dealing with. As Mike Vrabel had told us on Monday, is that uncertainty of who you're going to play. So you had to study for both teams. You had to make up cut-ups for each team, last 4 or 5 games as they do, and have those prepared for the players. And, players start peeking ahead, but now they can hone in on a game plan, and they're going to need to be at their very best, I think, offensively, to handle what the Texans bring to the table. And that's probably where we should start. What I've seen from watching the Texans this year, which I've probably seen them 4 or 5 times this year, full games, is that they are a do-what-you-do defense. Now, normally, you say that here in New England, and people are like, it's over. Patriots are a game plan team. They were with Brady. They're doing this with Drake May as well. Josh McDaniels as the OC, seen everything there is to see. And so if you're going to do what you're going to do, they'll take advantage. They'll find the weaknesses, and they'll hammer you over the head with it. The difference with this do-what-you-do defense, and not to say that there aren't some schematic things that they do and stunts and twists and those sorts of things, is that they bring such an elite level of talent at all 3 levels that they basically just say, we can do these things, and we will do some of these things, but generally, my guy is better than your guy, and that's how we're going to win the football game. Matt Burke, their defensive coordinator, has done a terrific job this year. Not sure why he's not getting interviews for head coaching jobs. Like, we're talking about a bunch of retread guys. This guy has been given the keys by D'Amico Ryans, who, of course, is a defense-first guy, their head coach, but he's given Burke the keys, and Burke has taken this thing over and taken it to a very high level. Just for stat stakes here. Stat sakes? Yes. Texans #1 in total defense this year. #2 in scoring defense, 17.4 points per game. They allow 277 yards per game. So in other words, a normal Drake May day, taking away all the other stuff. In 3-and-out percentage, #1 in the league. 3-and-outs 29.7% of the time during the regular season. First down percentage per drive, 16.7. Again, #1 in the National Football League. They have 4 players with at least 4 interceptions. Danielle Hunter, 15 sacks. That was 3rd in the league. And Will Anderson, the opposite edge rusher, 85 pressures. That was 2nd in the league, only to Aiden Hutchinson, who had 89 for the Lions. Anderson also 48 pressures on 3rd downs. That is the best in the National Football League. So that just kind of tells you how good that defense is and what they're capable of doing. And, of course, it does really start with the 2 edge guys, Anderson and Hunter. I would venture to say that Anderson is one of the 10 or 15 best players in the league. He doesn't have the Myles Garrett sack stats, nor does he have his teammate, Danielle Hunter's sack stats, but he is an absolute force and excellent against the run. So this is not a one-trick pony from the outside. I think Myles Garrett can actually be that sometimes. Hutchinson, I think, is more of a complete player, but Anderson is in that class of complete player. Not easy to run on him, and certainly not easy to pass block. Hunter on the other side, beast, long arms, incredible get-off speed. The Patriots' pass blocking will be tested, and there'll be some games that are going to run in there. And I think when you see, Jared Wilson have some issues in this last game as he was kind of kicking off the rust from the concussion, but we've seen in the past Moses and Wenu on the other side having some difficulties with stunts. They're going to target that as well. They watch film. They will attack that. They will try to put their long levered edge guy on an inside player with that speed and see if they can confuse and get to the quarterback. You've seen too at various points this year, not a ton, but a little bit, where they're not on the edges. They might line up in the A gap. They might dance over the center guard gap and just sort of test your blocking rules. And can you block them quick enough? And the Patriots have had some issues with that. Garrett Bradbury, obviously a little undersized in the interior, and sometimes you just can't get to speed like that. So those two guys, I think, are critical. And then when you talk about them lining up on the edge, this is another matchup that's not great for Will Campbell. You don't want to hear it because you like Will Campbell. You don't want to hear the arm length thing because you don't think it's a big deal, or you just want to whistle past the graveyard. We told you going into the Chargers game that, and this was from people in the league, coaches in the league, talking about Campbell and how you can attack him. And what you see with Will Campbell is, because he doesn't have the normal arm length of a left tackle, again, it's not significantly, but some of these guys are 35, 36-inch arms. He's under 33. That guys will get their hands into his chest plate, easy for me to say, and will control him physically that way. We saw that at times with the Chargers because that's what those guys do. Mac Tuilopututu, I can never say his name, and then Odafe Oweh, who was just immense and gave Campbell all kinds of problems in that game. So this is a similar thing where those guys will test him with power, because both of those guys are very capable of power. They're very good at that, but also they have the great speed. So then you're playing that guessing game. If you're Will Campbell, you can't set the same way. Patriots will, I'm sure, try to chip. The problem with that, and we saw that in the game against the Chargers, and I certainly remember it in the game against Pittsburgh as well, which was one of Will's more difficult games in terms of dealing with edge rushers. Nate Herbert got him in that game. Cleveland game as well. Sometimes when he gets chip help, he gives too long of a runway. And I asked Vrabel about this months ago, and he did say, you can't give too much space. And I think we saw that in the game against the Chargers, where on one of those plays where Hunter Henry chipped, I think it was Oweh, chipped Oweh, and Will was backpedaling, and it was a little bit of a soft engage. And because of that, full head of steam, quick move, and then he's beat. And that is something where you almost want to stay on top of those guys. And some tackles will tell you they don't even like getting chip help because sometimes it disrupts their timing. But you can't just say, hey, go one-on-one with this guy all game, because that's a disaster. You want to make sure that you have different bodies coming at them so that they're in their head. They're not sure where the next contact's going to come from. Good example of that was the Giants game, right? Where the Patriots went in against that pass rush, Abdul Carter, Burns, Thibodeau, and said, ooh, this is going to be a challenge for us. Let's make sure that Burns has his head on a swivel. Is it a tight end? Is it a running back? Is there a heavy, an extra offensive lineman, Thayer Mumford? Are we doing different things to at least slow his get off? In that case, I think you're going to have to approach this in a similar manner against Anderson and Hunter. The good thing for the Patriots has been Morgan Moses on the right side, knock on wood, continues to play at a very high level. He was, quote unquote, responsible for the second strip sack, but that was a quick pass. He tried to cut Oweh. He did impede him, didn't get him to the ground, and that was truly Drake May's fault. Drake can't hold on to the ball that quickly, and that's something that Vrabel referenced on Monday as well. Hey, when the ball's designed to be out quick and they're cutting, they did their job. He's got to do his. So there'll be some of that as well. I think the more I look at this, and we'll get into this deeper this week, and we'll have more conversations with people around the league, and I'll put those in the Boston Sports Journal notebook for this weekend, as we did last weekend with the Chargers matchup, is that sort of that quick passing game where, just cuts, you're trying to attack them at different levels, get rid of the ball quickly. They did that against the Giants, where May took the checkdowns to the running backs over and over again, or quick balls into the flat to the receivers. And then as the game progresses, they start to creep up a little bit, and that's when you get the big play over the top of them. Patriots have been very good at that. Of course, there's the opposite approach, right? Where you can just say, screw it, we're going 4 verts on the first play to let you know, as I would joke, announce my presence with authority. But it would seem logical to play quick and fast early on and then try to attack them at the second and third levels as the game goes on. And obviously the run game will factor into this as well, with Trevion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson, who continues to run like an absolute monster this last month. And his contributions in pass protection have been fantastic. His ability, and Andrew Callahan and I talked about this on the Pats Interference Pod Monday night, where I give him a ton of credit for, we talk about Drake and deciphering the defense, and the 48-yard check down completion that got the Patriots out of the shadow of their own goal line after the turnover on downs for the Chargers early in that game. It was also about Stevenson not allowing his eyes to be occupied by false pressure, potential creepers, and like doing that so quickly in a second and a half, like he has to process that and then leaking out. And then you get that big play there. There was another one later in the game, a 17-yard completion. He had 3 catches for 75 yards in the game. So there'll be something similar to that because this team doesn't blitz a ton. In fact, you go back to the Steelers game on Monday night, they blitzed just 4 times because they got such pressure with just your normal 4-man rush, more pressure than most teams can generate on a regular basis. So that is something certainly to watch. Last night against the Steelers, they had a 50%, almost 50% pressure rate. And as I mentioned, they only blitzed 4 times. It's kind of the inverse of what the Patriots have been, right? This year they've been able to get pressure with the blitz and certainly did a phenomenal job blitzing the bejesus out of the Chargers and Justin Herbert. But when it comes to the 4-man rush, they just don't get home very often. This group, with those 2 monsters on the edge, they get home. They get home often against opposing teams. So that's just going to be something the Patriots are going to have to deal with. And McDaniels has been really good all year long about sort of varying the protection plans. And again, just give those guys a reason to hesitate and not be sure of where contact is going to come from. And that will be critical, I think, to slowing them down a little bit. I do want to talk about having seen them last year, and granted, different coaching staff, different offensive line. Fedarian Lowe was just starting left tackle, although he did a nice job filling in for Will Campbell this year when he had to. DeMontre Jacobs on the right side, but that was May's first start. We debated it at the time. Is this the right defense to do it against? And he acquitted himself pretty well. But if you remember in that game, second half, it's a close game, and Jacobs gets beat by Hunter to start the third quarter, strip sack. Ball game sort of tilted in the Texans' favor after that. And I think having seen that speed up close and personal is going to be important and is a benefit for May in this one. I know it was last year. I know it was a different scheme. I know it was different personnel, but this defense is faster than just about any defense in the league. And again, they do this at all 3 levels. So having seen that and experienced it, can only be beneficial for him. And of course, flip side, the Texans have seen Drake May. And now, even though he's a much different player and a significantly better player this year than he was last, they also know, hey, he'll test Derek Stingley down the sidelines. If you remember, that was the long touchdown pass to Kayshon Boutte right before the half. Like, he's not afraid to stand in there and try to make plays, and now seems to have a better balance on when to take off and run and when to try to make that play. There were obviously the couple fumbles where I think he was trying to do too much, and would prefer him to go Yertle the turtle and just cover up and go down. And I'm sure that will be an emphasis this week, knowing how capable the Texans are of changing a game with a turnover in that regard, but also having the ability and sort of the smarts to know when to use his legs. He's been real good, I think, in the last 3 or 4 weeks when he sees a defense peel off and play man and turn their backs. And if that's C parts, no hesitation, he's going. And you saw him take that 37-yard run that I think changed the sort of tenor of the game for him personally against the Chargers on Sunday night, where he was going for extra yards. This wasn't slide and get down. This was, no, we need all the yards we can get here. And he balanced that beautifully in the moment. So the maturity of the quarterback will be key. Before we continue on, you've heard me talk about this before. This episode, of course, brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but life with PrizePicks, it's not hard at all. This is about as easy to do, and it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoop actions almost every night, never stops here on PrizePicks, and PrizePicks lets you take control. There's a new feature here. PrizePicks has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash in on those winnings before the game even finishes out. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose FlexPlay, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for power play. No matter where you play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. And again, it's simple and easy. Pick stat projections on 2 players up to 6 to win, I believe, up to 1,000 times your money. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. I tell you all the time, too, they allow stacks. You can use the same player up to 3 times in a single play. That is awesome. If you want to continue to ride, as I've been saying for like 2 months now, the Drake May wave, more passing yards, more completions, longest attempts, rushing yards, more or less on Drake May has been very beneficial. So I talk about how they have playmakers at all 3 levels, the Texans do, and how obviously that pressure, they don't need to blitz because of the guys that they have up front. I will tell you, ton of zone behind it, which seems a little odd because Derek Stingley is clearly one of the best corners in the league. But much like the Patriots, there is a lot of match coverage in that regard. So it goes down statistically a zone, but it's a little bit more man than you would think. Kamari Lassiter's on the other side. Kamari Lassiter was a great college player, didn't run well coming out. And I was like, I just don't know if that's going to work. He's been terrific for them. And when they missed him in the final 2 regular season games of the year against the Chargers and against Indianapolis, their defense wasn't nearly as good. Tremon Smith ended up being the outside corner, sometimes plays in the slot. He's picked on. He's the guy that Drake May, Josh McDaniels, they're going to figure out and try to put on an island and to attack him because Stingley's awesome. Not that you're not going to test him, but he's awesome. And Lassiter is really, really good on the other side. Jalen Petrie at safety, terrific player as well. They have 3 of the top 6 guys in terms of passer rating against in the secondary in the entire National Football League in Lassiter, Stingley, and Petrie. So, approach at your own risk, basically, because those guys are really good, not only at taking the ball away, but playing the ball in the air and just playing you physically. I think Lassiter's, because he doesn't run as well, he may be the guy that can get over the top. That tends to be some protection on that side for him in that regard, but maybe that's a place where you can pop a big play against that defense. They do miss Tim Settle. Defensive tackle was Washington, was with Buffalo. He was having a very good year. He is lost for the season on the interior, and their run defense is not on the level of their pass defense. It's still good. Don't get me wrong. You don't have the number 1 total team defense and number 2 in scoring if you're not well-rounded as a group. But generally what happens is they get ahead. Those guys get to pin their ears back. Run game disappears. Patriots will be wise to continue to hand the ball off to Henderson and Stevenson. More Stevenson, please, to keep them honest and keep those, look, you want to continue to engage those physical presences on the outside because, hey, if you lean on them for 3 quarters, maybe they don't have the same get off in the 4th quarter. Or, oh, by the way, the Texans have been the number 1 team in point differential in the 4th quarter as well, a plus 78 in the National Football League this season, which is a really impressive number. And again, speaks to game script being so critical against that group. You want to get ahead, stay ahead, so you can continue to keep the run game active and continue to keep their eyes and head on a swivel. Let's go to the offensive side of this thing where there's a lot of places to talk about this group and what they've done this year and what they haven't done. Nick Kelly, first-time offensive coordinator. You know him as one of those tight pants guys that people were clamoring for a couple of years ago when they hired Alex Van Pelt, who was apparently offered the job, didn't like the terms or didn't like the situation, didn't take it, stayed in L.A. under Sean McVay for another year, and now is the Texans offensive coordinator. I would say it's been a rough first year for Nick, in part because Nick Caserio, another former Patriot and the Belichick's last true lieutenant, if you will, did not give him much to work with on the offensive line. This is an offensive line that starts former Patriot Trent Brown, that starts former Patriot Jake Andrews, who you probably don't even remember because he was never on the field for the Patriots, one injury after another before they cut him. They brought Ed Ingram over from Minnesota, where he was the worst, or the lowest, I should say, rated guard by PFF. And again, take the grades for what it's worth, but it's pretty low down on the chain. He's been better for them this year than that. But again, we're not talking about high level. Arante Ursary, the monstrous tackle from University of Minnesota, they got him in the second round. He started for them as well. But that group is suspect. Not as suspect as the Chargers offensive line, maybe a level above, but we're still talking bottom third of the league in terms of offensive line play. So I like the Patriots' ability to scheme it up in a similar manner than they did against the Chargers. I don't know if it's going to be as blitz heavy, where the Patriots were nearly at 50% blitz rate in that game, but I think they could do it against this group. I think their communication, while again better than the Chargers, is not elite. I think you can stress them with that, and I think the return of Robert Spillane in the middle of that defense meant such a difference to the communication front to back for the Patriots defense that, as I mentioned with Callahan, you saw so often where guys had timed it up just perfectly. I think that speaks to the level of communication and the sort of stability that Spillane brings. The guys in the locker room were raving about him, having him back, being what a big piece that was for them. And obviously it mattered too against what's not a good running team in the Chargers, but they limited their running backs to 2.6 yards a carry. Hold, please. Still dealing with a stupid head cold. So I appreciate you bearing with me. So we talk about the offensive line. I think that some of what the Patriots did against the Chargers, they're capable of doing again here. Let's get to CJ Stroud, because I don't know what to make of it, of how he's playing. For instance, last night, if you watch the game, 5 fumbles, 2 loss. That is bananas. Some of it was communication with Andrews. Some of it was him just not getting the ball cleanly, and that's on the quarterback. You've got to stay in there and get the ball cleanly. I'm sure they'll be harping on that all week, because you just can't afford to do that and think you're going to win another game by putting the ball on the ground that much. But Stroud has been consistently inconsistent for now 2 seasons, after what was at the time considered one of the best rookie seasons a quarterback has ever had. He has been uneven in his play for 2 years. Switched offensive coordinators. Slowick was his guy in year 1. He was his guy in year 2. They fired Slowick. They went to Caley. I think they've had a hard time sort of getting on the same page, but to me, it's more about just Stroud's inconsistency. This is someone who, when he came out of school, considered a very good processor, incredibly accurate, great rhythm thrower. Last night was another example of him not processing all that well, him not being all that accurate, and him not what was the third thing I said? I can't even remember what the third thing. This is where my brain is at right now. All those things he struggled to do last night. That's all I'm saying. So fatigue, people, and a head cold. So can the Patriots continue to put him in a blender, or does he just put himself in a blender right now? And what are the things that I do like about him, that I give him credit for, is even as things were going bad last night, then he still rips a couple throws. The corner route to Christian Kirk in that game, beautiful ball. But you say to yourself, that's what you did your entire rookie year. It was consistent your entire rookie year, and this hasn't been that. So you get that, and then the next one he sprays, 5 yards short and 5 yards to the right. And of course, now the big thing for them is Nico Collins, and actually another one of their veteran wide receivers, Justin Watson, both left the game with a concussion. I thought Collins was concussed earlier than when he landed right on his head, and that was the play that took him off. 6 days to recover from the concussion. I mean, I don't like to predict these things, but generally the rule is, or the recent history has been, you're not back in time to play the next game. Of course, the Patriots are dealing that with Christian Gonzalez. They have the extra day with Gonzalez to see if maybe, just maybe, he can be cleared for the game. But there's a big drop-off between Nico and what's next. Not that there wasn't a big drop-off from Gonzalez to Carlton Davis, but Carlton Davis is still pretty good. 2, 3, and 4 for the for the Texans. Kirk, who had his best night, 144 yards receiving on Monday night, but because of injury and usage, only had less than 300 during the regular season. And to me, there are 2 other good receivers, are both rookies, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. If you remember me, I am a huge Knoll fan. I don't know why they don't use him more. He's their punt returner. He's a really good player. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands, but Caley has not incorporated him as much as I would like. But we're talking about going from, if there's no Nico, everybody has to bump up. That's asking a lot for rookies in a divisional round playoff game on the road. Whereas if the Patriots don't have Gonzalez, again, that would not be good. You want all your best players out there. But Carlton Davis is still a good player. Maybe hadn't had a great year, but still a good player. Marcus Jones, very capable. And because now Kirk and Noel, they're both smaller guys, that's a good matchup for him. And Charles Woods has done a nice job when he's been in there. He's obviously, again, not Christian Gonzalez, not even Carlton Davis, but has given them solid play. Alex Austin, another guy to watch. He's been coming back off the 21-day, or his calendar, his clock was activated a couple weeks ago, hasn't been activated yet. Maybe he is someone that ends up finding his way back onto the 53 on the game day 46 and playing a role in the game. Would be a lot to ask after all the time off, but there's just a potential for another option there. Texans have found a bit of a running game. Woody Marks has their rookie out of USC, who's kind of came out. Most people consider him more a pass catcher than running back. Went over 100 yards last night. He's giving him a little something. I don't know that he's someone you turn the ball and hand it off to 25 times a game, but 16, 18, he can give you something. They actually got some good Nick Chubb runs last night as well, which, excuse me, is not something that's happened very often this year. Because of the knee injury, he's not even close to being the same back. But if you can give them a little something, that's something the Patriots will have to pay attention to. Because I'm sure based on how Stroud's been playing, they don't want to put the game all in his hands. They want to have him throw less than 30 passes in a game. And that would be a good game script for them. But Marks has been solid. They just absolutely spammed the run on first down against the Steelers and had terrific success on first down. So I would think they're going to try to replicate that against the Patriots D-line. That, again, after weeks and weeks of declining play against the run, stepped up against a poor offensive line without the number one back, because Marion Hampton had just one carry for the Chargers, but they did the job against Vidal, and they'll be tasked doing that again against the Texans. Quickly, just one other thought, and I don't really talk about special teams very often. Kymie Fairbairn, couple big kicks last night for him after a postseason a year ago where he missed a couple big kicks, including extra point. He's got one of the better legs in the league. Your guy, Andy Borregales, continues to do it. Didn't ask him to do a ton, but just going 3 for 3 in your first playoff game in cold weather with some wind, pretty impressive. My voice is about to go. I want to appreciate you guys. I want to thank you for staying with me as I continue. This one day I'm going to feel better. A 3 o'clock game should certainly help. This late night game did not do me any favors. Generally, old man Giardi out cold by fourth quarter on a normal circumstance, but obviously working until late. So the cold just will not go away. I want to thank my guy Harrison for producing the program. He had to deal with my brain, which is just all over the place today. So he's the man. You are the man or woman for bearing with me and my cold and for continuing to partake in this program, the All 32 podcast. Got a good guest planned for later in the week. Knock on wood. Sometimes things change, but try to give you the goods on the Texans and Patriots and divisional round football. And I'll leave you with this. We talked to Garrett Bradbury on Monday. Garrett Bradbury, his rookie year, was in the playoffs, and he won a playoff game. And he recalled to us as he was coming off the field, he said a veteran linebacker, he didn't give us a name, was like, dude, you don't know how special this is. This doesn't happen every year. Just enjoy it. And so he said the atmosphere at Gillette on Sunday was unbelievable. And he said in the fourth quarter, they're playing AC/DC songs. And I'm looking at the rookies, Wilson and Campbell, some of these other guys, and being like, enjoy it because you just never know. But also, now that you tasted it, you want more of it. So be hungry again this weekend, which I don't think is going to be a problem. But I just thought it was an interesting thing for a guy who's been in the league 6-7 years. It's like, you walk into the league and you're in the playoffs. And then the next thing you know, you go 5 years and you don't win a playoff game. So it was pretty sweet to win a playoff, and I think the fans responded in kind. It was a great atmosphere. at Gillette. All right, that's going to do it. My voice is gone. Appreciate you.